Ladies and gentlemen, we want to say again, thank you so much, Nick Stone Street, for all your support. We started on this journey a year ago as we talked about the importance of Juneteenth. And throughout 2020, although it was a crazy year, you led the way in trying to help the company understand the importance of social justice and just humanity. And what inspired you to lead Ronald Blue Trust that way?
I wanted to hear from Sabrina. I didn't know you were going to ask me these questions. Now, look, Mike, we've been friends a long time, and so thinking about just, how people are supposed to treat each other, how people are supposed to listen to each other, how we're supposed to care for each other, it's just fundamental. It's fundamental to our faith. It's fundamental to being a human being. And when you see people that are so caught up in whichever news network they watch, how divided they are and how much infighting there is. I mean, it's just sad. And so this was just a way, you and I kind of putting our heads together to go, what we need is to be peacemakers. We don't need to be embroiled in controversy, but learning how we can love each other. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And ladies and gentlemen, we have this series entitled The Way Forward. We strive to be peacemakers in our daily lives. And we want to encourage you to join this movement, to join this quest. We believe that believers are best suited to help in this crazy society that we're living in. The topic of race and law enforcement has polarized our nation. However, there are peacemakers who bridge the divide by striving to live out their faith while performing their civic duties. And today, our guest is Sabrina Maxwell Patterson. And Sabrina, thank you for being a part of today. Can you share with us how are you involved in law enforcement?
Thank you so very much. I first would like to say I am excited to see a company such as Ronald Blue Trust engaging in this platform. It is necessary. So I'm honored to be here.
Thanks, Sabrina.
A little about me. I've been in law enforcement 23 and a half years. And I serve as assistant chief in the state of Florida in the Division of Alcoholic Beverages and Tobacco. And so this profession has allowed me to see a lot of issues between the races, if you will. And it has also given me a platform to try to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And I have used this platform to try to talk with my subordinates, with my leaders, with my colleagues, to engage them in this need. So it's very important.
All righty. Well, how in the world did you get into law enforcement?
By default.
Okay.
By default. While completing my master's degree, I was working at, I would say as a department legal aid, if you will. And I had a gentleman speak to me about being a special agent. I had no idea what that meant, but it sounded exciting. And so my goal was to be an attorney. He explained to me about going to the police academy. I never desired to be a police officer, never really understood what police officers did, but I did. And I became a special agent and moved to Jacksonville and worked my way up the chain doing different types of investigations, if you will. And so I tell people I'm here by default. It was just the title of special agent is the reason why I'm a law enforcement officer today.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, right? To be a special
the title.
agent. Yeah, it's a great
Had
title.
no idea what that meant.
And then the reality of going through the training in the academy, what was that like for you?
It was 6 months of grueling pain, and it was mental abuse, to be honest with you, because it was trainers who were male, white male, and I was one of two black females in that class, and I was the last one to complete that training. Mm-hmm. So it was very tough because it was their goal to eliminate the women from the class.
More biased towards women or more biased towards a woman of color?
I have to say towards women.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they would share with us that this is a profession that is carved out, I would call it like yesterday, for men only. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good friend, Daryl Owens, who's a trainer in the Boston Police Department. And when he was here couple of years ago, he spoke with us, and he talked about how it was so important for, he's responsible in Boston. He said, I wanted to get the Irish cops that were angry at people off the streets
Yes.
and he said, we wanted to hire black nerds. I'm just quoting what Daryl
No,
said.
I understand.
And he said, we wanted black nerds to work in the community with black people
Yes.
and have more community engagement. What's your thought about that as far as law enforcement tactics? Because we haven't heard a lot of bad stuff coming out of Boston.
No,
I
we
think
haven't.
Daryl's 30 years there may have had an impact.
I wish that every state would look at a strategic plan on recruiting blacks into law enforcement. That's very far and few between, to be honest with you. And in Florida, we definitely do not have a plan of action such as that. And it definitely does not include women. So I believe every agency should tap into that to see if there is a need in sponsoring women or blacks into the academy so that we have more blacks that are engaged in the community and understand what's happening. And then also, then that affects their colleagues because they can engage them in the things they don't understand. So if there's a white colleague that doesn't understand the black community, then that black officer can help them with that.
That's great.
It's conversation.
Well, it's got to, it should reflect, I guess you'd think that the policing should reflect the community, right?
Yeah.
If the community's primarily Hispanic, we need some Hispanic police officers.
Absolutely.
Growing up in Miami, Florida, you'd see a lot of, different flavors
Yes.
of police officers. So I think Miami probably was forced to understand that, differences in community, differences in language
Yes.
and everything.
That is correct.
As you've gone through, special agent, and now it's assistant chief.
Assistant chief, yes.
Amazing. So what are some things that you've, seen? I'm from Miami. You got any good Miami stories for me, or?
Oh, wow. I just left Miami 2 weeks ago. I actually worked the undercover investigation in Miami. Hialeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
I was purchasing narcotics.
Okay.
And that was
I won't say whether or not I've ever done that in Hialeah. But if I
and
did,
I won't say if I saw you or not.
if I did, it wasn't as a special
I never
agent.
saw you. But I did. I worked closely with two Cuban officers, and we worked an investigation there. Of course, it was a black club, but they were assigned that investigation. So, as special agent, I was advised that I would be working a lot of narcotics. So that was primarily my job, and I would travel the state and do so. So I did bring that investigation to a close. It was successful. The subject did go to jail, but it was very different working in that culture. They didn't understand me, and I was still trying to learn and understand them.
That's great.
So you were undercover.
I was undercover.
Did you have an undercover name?
Mary. That was always
Come
my
on.
favorite.
Oh, Mary.
Oh, in Miami, though, it's
Mary,
Maria.
Mary Wilson, because it was just really a what we call a hole in the wall type club, just thrown together, nothing fancy. So I was just Mary. I was Mary on crack.
Mary
Okay.
on crack.
Interesting.
Mary on crack.
That was your cover story.
And it made it easy to buy crack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for keeping my hometown safe.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yes.
Now you have, we know Tony, your husband,
Yes.
but talk to us about the rest of your family.
Okay, my son is 20.
Okay.
He attends college in Tallahassee.
Oh, wow.
And
Where's he at? In FAM? Or
yes.
Florida State?
Well, he was in the engineering program,
Okay.
It's a dual degree.
dual degree.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm gonna put FAMU and FAM and FSU together.
Okay. Okay.
And my daughter, and now he's going into his junior year,
All right.
and then my daughter is going into her junior year in high school.
Okay.
And she's 15. Yeah. So I have 2 kids, and I couldn't have done this job without my husband. He is a huge supporter. I've had to move in order to promote.
Right.
And he's packed up the house and moved, and just assisted the family in continuing to function while I traveled so much because this job is very demanding.
Right.
And as I promoted from special agent to lieutenant and then captain and then major and now I promoted, he's had to really step in and be mom and dad.
Wow.
So not only am I dealing with those issues at work, being away from the family brings a level of stress,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So I've been able to do that with the grace of my husband.
Now, it's really fascinating, though, with the two kids, and as an undercover agent, you're going into very dangerous situations.
Yes.
How do y'all deal with the anxiety around that as a family?
My husband has never been worried. He's never displayed any worry. I believe it's because of that strong support, and he believes strongly in me, as well as my son. My daughter worries all the time. Females mostly do. So when I leave home, which is weekly, I'm gone 3 or 4 days a week, she constantly worries.
Right.
And so again, that's that faith, the praying and the prayer, and my husband engaging, and that has really helped her a little. But it's been hard.
Yeah, I can
it has
imagine.
been.
Yeah,
She constantly asks me, "Will I make it back home?" She loves the media. She's
Right.
that age,
Right.
and she watches everything and she questions everything, and she loves politics.
Uh-oh.
Interesting.
And I'm just going to
Well,
leave that there.
We need somebody that loves it enough to see
So
that.
she
That's
loves,
okay.
and she wants to know, why do certain things happen? Certain things happen, and will I make it back home at night? That's her biggest fear.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that'd be hard.
What has your undercover life ever collided with your real life?
It sure has. Sitting in church,
What?
Bethel Baptist, I recall. I was Mary Wilson, and I had been working a food stamp case. And I had been, unfortunately, an older black male had been selling me everything I could purchase with the food stamp card. And while sitting in church, he was sitting behind me, and I'm with the family. They were really young then. And he tapped me on the shoulder. "Good morning, Sister Mary."
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, "You have the wrong person," because I'm out of character. I forgot.
Wow.
And yeah, it was the gentleman that I had been working undercover in his store. Thousands of dollars of product that I was purchasing that you're not allowed to purchase with that card.
Right.
And in return, he was making, believe it or not, a lot of money.
Right. Right.
And yeah, he tapped me on the shoulder, and then I had to go back into character. Oh, yeah, that was scary. I've had a lot of situations where, yeah, it's been pretty scary.
You ever had a situation where you didn't feel as though your fellow officers were watching out for you?
Yes, I could think of another investigation where I was working narcotics. I was in a small town in Florida. There's a lot of rural areas. So there was a bar where I was, I would say 10 miles down a dirt road. We had, my backup was 4 Caucasian males. And back then we had like a repeater. So I was wired and mic'd up like I am now. But we had a code word. And if something happened, I'm to give the code word, and they would come to my aid. Well, the bar owner actually put a gun to my back and said, "I know you're a cop," because a fellow officer advised him that he was under investigation, that there was a female officer in there that he had never seen before working drugs. Be very careful.
Police?
Another officer, yes.
Okay.
A white male officer. I was there working on behalf of the sheriff's department. Remember, I'm a state agent.
Right.
I'm there to help them. I'm his undercover. And he advised the bar owner that I was there working undercover. And when I gave the code word, because I had the gun in my back, if you will, my backup did not respond.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting out of that?
Oh, I was just telling one of the ladies that works for your company, de-escalation. I took a class, de-escalation.
Right.
I never thought that class would be beneficial. It's being able to talk. Again, with the issues that we're dealing with now, being able to talk. I talked my way out of that.
Wow.
Yes.
I bet
talked
you had some talking to do to your backup when you.
Oh, you have no idea.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, they just didn't respond. It was, and the stories go on and on
Right.
and on. I've had several officers tell me they would not back me up. They don't back up blacks.
Wow.
I mean, it's Yeah.
Do you feel like, it's so disturbing, Sabrina, to
Yes.
hear that. Do you feel like, there's anything hopeful? Do you feel like people are starting to listen? I mean, we just made Juneteenth a national holiday. Somebody's listening.
I have to remain hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
I have to, because that's what keeps me grounded to do the job. Every morning when I walk into one of our field offices, I have to pray.
Right.
I have to remind myself why I do this job and who's greater than all the people that I work around, and that's my God.
Right.
Because if I don't, I would fall and fail.
Wow.
That's important.
That is important.
And I encourage that, although we have to keep, they tell us we have to keep religion out of the office.
Right.
But I find a tactful way to remind my team that so that they can sort of follow the same.
Well, the motto of policemen is to protect and serve. So.
Protect and serve, that's what they tell us. And then when we go to training, they say, go home by any means necessary.
Right.
What did you just tell that officer?
Right. Right.
That's inside information,
That's
but
kind
it's
of the gap.
factual.
Yeah.
Go home by any means necessary.
Yeah. Well, you spoke a little bit earlier about just the fear in
Yeah.
the black community, but also the fear of white police officers when they're out there policing as well. They do want to go home.
Yeah.
What would you say to help them ease that fear? And what can they do?
I'll share with you before I answer that question that I've had conversations with some of my white colleagues and subordinates, and they tell me that they are so fearful because they've only been taught or believe or have seen that if they come in contact with a black male, that black male has a gun, they're going to kill him. And they believe it, regardless of what you tell them. But I have to share with them that you have to be open-minded. Not every person is bad.
Right.
I'm in law enforcement 23 years. I'm not bad. And I can lie down at night and know that within my spirit. But they believe that if they come in contact with someone that is black, they are there to harm because that's what they've been taught. And vice versa. Black families, people believe that the white officer is there to kill them.
Right.
And
Yeah, and you
It's a
hear
cycle.
that rhetoric. You hear
Yes.
about black people being hunted.
Yes.
And that kind of
Yes.
rhetoric, and it just
Yes.
seems like there's so much fear on both sides.
On both
that you're going to
sides.
end up with things
The
going
chaos
wrong
that we have
because
now.
of
that we have now. It's the headlines on the news.
Yeah.
And remember, that's what we're seeing. Before, it was happening, but now we are seeing it in real time
Because of social media.
because of social media. And they're saying they're here to kill us. They're here to kill us. And so people hear that because everybody don't have a strong mind.
Right.
We're all the same. Our minds are different.
Yeah, and people believe, kind of what the people that they trust in their lives tell them. And so if your parents
Absolutely.
and grandparents are telling you, it's this way, or your big brother's telling you
Yeah.
it's this way, then you're going to grow up, believing it's that way.
I was very excited yesterday talking about Juneteenth. I have an officer in my Jacksonville office who was absolutely against it. What is the purpose of this? This is a waste of time. He was angry.
Right.
He was absolutely angry. And, so I've talked to him over the years. I still have to stay hopeful.
Right.
But I say over the years. And that was the conversation we had yesterday.
Well, it's great you could have that conversation at least. He was open about it.
He
with
was
you.
open. But, I have to believe that change is coming.